The idea of consciousness and that we don't understand it, I think we can all agree on. And I think that's a good starting point for anybody, right? Like, hey, we clearly science does not understand our consciousness and what it's there for. And as far as we can tell, we're our only reference for the type of consciousness we have. Now, I have a couple of dogs. People have animals, right? Like you look at them and you think, what's going on up there? What's going on up in that brain? Something going on. How aware are they? Right? How self-aware are they? And what does that self-awareness get us? So I think that is, uh, um, uh, a respectful way to kind of start the conversation that we don't understand consciousness. And if it is connected to that, that wouldn't surprise me. Let's just put it that way. Like that honestly wouldn't surprise me. So I don't know. Parsi, you seem like you want to jump in here. What
Yeah,
you got?
like if I can interject. Look, you can bring a live alien in front of you, and some people may not believe it, right? It's the way that I see this phenomenon is I don't wish it on my worst enemy, because the experiences that I've had quite a few negative experiences, right? So
Oh
some
man, I'm
really,
sorry to hear that.
really, that's okay. That's okay. But you notice that on in the general narrative, right? You're gonna hear people that are either all love and light, aliens are gonna come and save us, the Nordics are gonna come and save us, and everyone's gonna tuck us into bed. Or you're gonna have the really dark side, which is they're gonna eat us, they're gonna rape us, they're gonna kill us, right? We don't have a balance of this narrative. That's what we need. You need to have discernment. You need to be able to ask questions. You're goddamn right when you have people like Jon Stewart on. He says, "Oh, I have an alien interview, blah blah blah." You have every right to question him, because we can't move this conversation forward. Number one is if you accept every single thing, because then you're not using your discernment. Number two is that people can just bullshit their way through this whole thing. And the reason why we're all here is basically to break the stigma. We're not out there to, make money or have, 10,000 followers on. This is a very hard thing for me to do, to come public. Um, I don't want to give out my name to most people. These guys know my name, but sadly, we live in this society where you get judged for saying things like you're an experiencer or you've seen a UFO, and unless people have that experience, so you don't have to wait and say, okay, I'm going to wait out here and see a UFO, or I'm going to see an alien. The phenomenon is multifaceted, so it's not just about the nuts and bolts craft. You could have an experience and you may not even be aware of it, right? But what's happening is that people like us, if there's other people around us, they tend to have that same experience. And now there's a new aspect to this phenomenon, is how it's reacting to us being in different countries. Like me being here in Australia, these guys being here in the States. And when this thing is happening, our minds are continuously blown every single day, because we want to be rational and we want to be like, okay, what the hell is happening here? Like, there's no frame of reference when you're in that experience. So the endorphins go up and you're like, wow, this is really, this feels amazing. I'm having an otherworldly experience. But then
Sure.
you'll feel the crash. You'll feel that PTSD where you're like, oh my God, I have all these questions, but I don't have a place to find the answers. And that's what we're trying to do, is have these discussions, so that when we put up our videos on X, you'll notice that, Mr. Bledsoe is a great guy. I can hear it in his voice that he's sincere, but he's been propped up as a messiah. And I'm sorry to say that, but he's no messiah. We're all the same. We all have that power within us, right? It's just where you are able to focus your energies. Now, you started this podcast, and slowly you've built it up, because it's all in the mind over matter. So focus goes where energy flows. Sorry to sound philosophical. At the
Love
end
it.
of the day, I think disclosure is not going to come from the governments, because they're too intertwined with the technology. They're too, money hungry. It has to come from the people, and
Yeah.
it will come from the people eventually.
Yeah.
I mean, I already feel it in my bones. It's a process that's happening, and people that are awakening now. So, as Christian said so eloquently, everyone is an experiencer. You just don't know it yet. So when you have that first experience, you're like, what the hell did I just see or experience? And then your mind's going to start rationalizing. So we had another person in that space that saw them, and he was emotional like the rest of us, and he was like, for days later, he was like, you know what, no, can't be, something like an orb. It must be a satellite. But how is that possible when it's happening simultaneously in two different countries? Explain that, science. So
Explain that, science. Get it. I love it. That was great. That was great. Yeah. I mean, look, there's no doubt that there are unexplainable things, right? Like, there clearly, we don't even know how our brain works, and we're trying to use the thing that we don't know how it works to figure out how it works. It's a weird circle, right? Like, the thing we don't know what's going on. So
Well,
I'm with you. I
Patrick,
mean, it's a lot of
what about,
unexplainable stuff.
well, think
Go ahead, Paul.
about Kona Blue, right? They talked about having a consciousness center.
Yeah,
So
that's
it
true.
seems like they have been doing research on psi abilities, and you hear about
Sure.
conscious-based technology too. So I think if
Sure.
you look up, you go down the ladder, right? There's going to be some type of integration. I mean, we're already looking at it right now with AI. So how
Yeah.
could it not exist? If we're, if you kind of want to reference Michael Masters' future human theories and whatnot, that could be what we're seeing, right? So you never know.